So welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about tractor ballast, why it's important, why you need it, and why I recently decided to go with a ballast box. So I recently acquired a grapple for the front of my tractor, and I've been going out in the woods and cleaning things up, picking up brush, and I've come to the realization that my old school way of thinking for proper tractor ballast is no longer going to work, especially for that new piece of equipment. So let's discuss the importance of tractor ballast before we jump in this box over here. By the way, we're going to do a little building in this episode, and we're going to make the ultimate ballast box. At least for my needs, it's going to have a lot more uses than a standard ballast box. So where ballast really comes into some importance is mainly with the use of a front end loader, although ballast in general is a good thing with or without a loader. So let's think about some stuff here. We've got the loader on the front of the tractor. We're picking up heavy weight. Say I'm picking up a huge pallet or something on the front of this loader. Well, we're eventually going to have a pivot point or a fulcrum point. And what that's going to be right now is this front axle. And this front axle can't carry near the weight that a rear axle does. There is just no comparison in how big and beefy the front is compared to the rear. So think about that. The more weight that's up here, now the tractor is wanting to essentially squat down this direction, put the weight on that front axle, and in theory, although this is extreme case, it's wanting to lift the rear up, causing that front axle to be the pivot point. So that's putting stress on your bearings, your seals, and the axle itself. It's just not a good thing. Not to mention that's taking away from stability. Ballast is very important for stability. So imagine I had no weight on the rear 3-point right here. We pick up such a tremendous amount of weight on the front that the rear tires come completely off the ground. Now you've lost a tremendous amount of stability and you have an unsafe situation. So it's going to be very hard to see, but the reason that's important because the rear axle on a tractor is solid. That's where you get your stability with a solid axle. Whereas the front axle on a tractor actually pivots on that center bolt right up there. I know I'm a little out of focus. So think about this scenario. If you start getting light in the rear end or get your tires completely off the ground, your front axle, which can pivot like this, there goes all your stability. Now you're at the risk of rolling your tractor over. So let's think about this, for example. We have two axles, two pivot points here essentially. If we have all the weight picking up on the front end and not much in the rear, again, we're putting that stress down on this axle and trying to pivot on it. But whenever we add weight to a rear 3-point, like this big disc, for example, what that's doing is putting weight down on the rear, essentially pinning this rear axle and tires to the ground. Now, let's think about an extreme case. If I were to have so much weight on the rear 3-point right here, you've essentially moved all the pivot point from the front axle to here. If we could get it extreme enough, well, the whole front of the tractor would lift up. That front axle is no longer on the ground. All the weight is transferred to the rear. It's become the pivot point. That's very important on something like my new heavy grapple. I'm picking up trees and brush. You really need to get that strain off the front end. It's just going to extend the life of your tractor, going to make my work environment a whole lot safer. Now the issue that I'm running into, typically I hook up to some heavy equipment like this for rear ballast. I already own the equipment. We might as well use it as some rear weight to help me with the lifting that I'm doing on the front end. But when I'm going out into the woods, say going out there getting trees, firewood, now I'm going to be using my grapple to clear the trails out, something that sticks out this far on the rear end is a hindrance. It's all in the way. I can't turn around on these tight trails. So most people would say, hey, hook up to like a box blade or something such as that. It's a more compact piece of equipment. And yes, I've used that in the past as well. The problem is that box blade doesn't weigh anywhere near the minimum recommended ballast that John Deere says I should use for this particular loader right here. So if you go look at your tractor's loader manual, it'll actually give specifications for suggested rear ballast. Inside these tires right here, these are water-filled tires, and there's actually about 1,500 pounds of ballast between both of them. They're relatively large tires, at least for a compact tractor. So in my manual, it says that I should have ballasted rear tires. It's actually required anytime you add a loader to a John Deere tractor. And then there's another section that says an additional minimum ballast of 800 pounds on the 3-point arms back there. So obviously the engineers have done some sort of calculations for safety reasons and load reasons. They say Water-filled tires, 1,500 pounds there is what you roughly get, plus a minimum of 800 on the back. There is no maximum. In theory, the 3-point arms can lift, but only so much, but you're not gonna overstress the tractor. Now that brings us to ballast boxes. I was actually planning on building one. You know, we're all DIY on the channel. I just do not have the time right now with all the other awesome projects that we have going on. So my friends over at Vevor happen to have a tractor ballast box. I've told y'all they literally have everything from house related stuff to tractor related stuff, tools, anything you could possibly think of, restaurant equipment, the list goes on and on and on. I was not surprised to see that they offer tractor ballast boxes. You get this particular box in red or green. I'm gonna wind up painting it black because I'm gonna beat it up in the woods, let's face it. We're gonna back into brush and everything else. And I always keep tons of Rust-Oleum spray paint around in black. Now, a couple things I really like about their ballast boxes. One, the price is relatively affordable. Links down in the description. I'll throw you a coupon code down there too, where you can save a little money. But they've kind of thought ahead. For one, they have cutouts, so you can actually pick this up. Once it's full of something, it's quite heavy, but you can pick it up with tractor forks and move it around now. I've seen a lot of ballast boxes that are flat bottoms and, well, you're just gotta hook a chain or figure out some way to snatch it around or move it around by hand. Not very convenient. The other thing that I like that they've done is a rear reese hitch. So if we're already gonna have a ballast box tying up our rear 3-points, we might as well make it useful. I'm gonna add some more stuff to this today. Wait until you see what I have. So now you can always leave a little reese hitch back here if you want to pull around something light. I mean, looking at the way all this is welded up, this is not the most robust thing on the planet. I don't recommend hooking up a trailer with heavy tongue weight on this, but for moving around a small garden trailer, your log splitter, things such as that, I always love having some sort of reese hitch on the back side of my tractor. So the other thing that I really like they've done, they've welded in tubes right here so I can add like my garden rakes or say my log rolling equipment. And I'm really wanting to set this up to go out in the woods with me to tote a chainsaw and some log moving equipment. So if you're already gonna have the ballast box, I like that it can be dual purpose. So the interior, nothing special. It's just a big hollow cavity. You can put rock in there, sand, or concrete like I'm gonna do. So we just picked up several 100 pounds worth of concrete right there. I want this to be permanently filled. I don't plan on dumping it out, but should you decide to say fill it with sand, for example, it's got a little lift up gate. You can clean this right out. It's lightweight and then you can move it around. So looking around, the welds look relatively decent. They have some of the corners reinforced with square tubing. I think it should easily handle the weight. Again, I just don't think I would overload the reese hitch with a heavy trailer along with this holding several 100 pounds. They also include some pins. I've heard people say that this is set up to be quick hitch compatible. However, I think you may have to swap the pins out or put bushings on. I don't own a quick hitch, so maybe looking at this will let you know what you need to know right there. What if we add something else and make this really multi-purpose? So I've already got some thoughts for what can go in down there in that little reese hitch hole. We're gonna cover that in this episode. But I asked Vevor if they wouldn't mind sending me out one of their chainsaw holders. So I looked at the style that has the scabbard, decided that's not for me because it fits certain size bars. I have multiple chainsaws with all different size bars. So I see they make what looks like a very well built, nice and thick, welded up chainsaw holder right here that's very universal. So I'm thinking I'm gonna mount this bracket on top. You can mount these on four-wheelers, tractors, anything else. This bolts to it, and what I like about this particular style is it'll hold a very wide bar, like say for my big saw. It's really nice and padded. So you stick your saw bar down in it, it clamps to it, you can tighten it. That's all gonna be mounted right here. So now when I'm carrying this out in the woods, I can have a chainsaw on my ballast box. I can have some tools, some woodworking tools over in those tubes over there. We're starting to get a little more multi-purpose. And this ballast box is really gonna be used a lot for me going and gathering firewood with my grapple in the front. So we might as well have a chainsaw and some other woodworking tools on here. Plus, if I'm out clearing trails, doing storm damage, things such as that with my grapple, you're gonna want these tools with you anyways. Well, that's too small, but I have this laying around. So we need to get it up to 2 inch. All right, so now you can see with a few minor upgrades, we have a multi-purpose ballast box. Again, if you're gonna go ahead and type your 3-point, let's make something really useful out of this. Now I have a firewood cutting machine, or I can pop a reese hitch right in the bottom, tow my wood splitter, a light trailer around the property. I don't foresee any issues with this handling that kind of a load. Now I really like this rack idea. You can pick these up really cheap. So I already had this one laying around, might as well use it. Now I can carry my chainsaw oil, gas, everything else out there. Throw a bucket in the back. I can put my wedges, my marking paint, my chainsaw sharpener, whatever I need. Throw my chaps back here and I still have a ton of room for other things. Now it's worth noting, I love this saw clamp right here. I think it's very well made for the price. Everything's welded up and nice thick metal. As it comes with a relatively large gap right here. So if you were going to clamp a saw with, say, a plastic scabbard already on, like this steel, you would do it as is. You wouldn't have to add anything to it and you could clamp the scabbard. I added additional foam right here. I'll put a link down there. I bought this off Amazon if you're curious about it, because not all of my saws come with these scabbards. And this particular saw, which is probably going to be my most commonly used one, say if I'm running around after a storm doing some trail cleanup, wouldn't clamp tight in here without adding the additional foam. Very cheap to do. This already comes with foam. I just basically doubled it up. Now, no matter what saw I use, all the way from my very large saw, my mid-size saw, or this one, I can clamp straight to the bar and I don't have to worry about a scabbard. So I really like the design of this chainsaw clamp. Not only does it support the entire power head up here with a padded section, but you're not flopping your entire chainsaw around just by holding the bar like I see a lot of models do. And I don't like the idea of a full steel scabbard model, because now your chain that you're trying to keep nice and sharp is bouncing around inside and making contact everywhere. That can't be good for the chain. And I really like the thought that they put in putting tubes up here, so now I can carry around, say, my log ox firewood tool, an axe. I can put a rake, pitchfork, anything I want back there. Hindsight's 2020. I wish I'd have put another 2-inch PVC tube down here when I poured the concrete, and I could have had a third hole for a third tool. I should have did that. So we're nice and full of concrete inside. It's had a full day to harden up. It still needs a little more dry time. So you can put the rack on the back. I really like the way this setup is going to be so useful for me right here. Now it's worth mentioning, I completely read the description wrong, and I watched a buddy of mine's video, Brock over at Rock Hill Farms. He did one of these a year or so ago, and he said he put 10 bags of concrete in here. I didn't pay attention that it was 10 50-pound bags. I bought 10 80s, hoping I could get 800 pounds in this. Well, I got right at 500 pounds of concrete. When you add the weight of the box, which is probably close to 100 pounds, all this other stuff here, things hanging off the back, I'm getting very, very close to that minimum ballast load that John Deere recommends. Now, Vevor claims this is a 800 pound ballast box, but what that means is they actually rate this for 800 pounds. You got to think you're adding additional weight to it. It's got a Reese hitch holder. You may put tongue weight of a trailer. So what they're saying is the weight that you put inside plus whatever you add to it, it's rated for 800 pounds of capacity. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this episode, learned a little bit about the importance of ballast. It's something that's very much needed on your tractor. I highly suggest you do it. So if you want to check out any of these products, from the chainsaw holder to the ballast box, I'll have links down in the description along with a coupon code there for a discount. So yeah, if you've hung around to this part of the video, we've got a treat for you. We're not done. So I just wrapped the video up, snapped a few pictures, sent to my buddy who I know would appreciate this. And he says, man, that is really cool. It's a great idea and all. But you know what would make it cooler? You need a hitch coming off the back side of your rack so you can carry your log splitter along with the rack and all the tools. Now, I'll be the first to admit that's going to put a lot of leverage on this. I'll accept any responsibility for crack welds or anything that could break, but this will be the only thing I'll pull with a hitch back here on the back side of this rack, just due to the weird leverages that's going to be going on, because we don't need a lot of tongue weight on that. So thanks, buddy. You knew exactly what to say to make me fire the camera back up and go get back to work. All right, so let's pull this rack out, cut everything off, figure out how to put a really heavy duty piece of 2x2 steel all the way across the bottom. We want to weld this up nice and good and have it go straight into here, and the ball will be on the back side of that. I don't want the rack itself supporting any of the tongue weight. I want that big, thick piece of steel going all the way into the receiver to be supporting the weight of this back here. Let's get back to work. Thought I was done. Never done. All right, well, here we go. My friend, are you happy now? So as you can see, I did a really long 2-inch pipe, paint's still sticky, to go all the way underneath to get full contact with that welded in receiver. That'll make things a lot stronger. All right, so now let's put our ball in. All right, well, I'm over 200 pounds, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. This log splitter tongue weight is nowhere near that much. right, so what started out as just a ballast box to help the tractor out has turned into like the ultimate firewood processing machine here. So I can run anything from just a ballast box with a few tools to go help me clear trails, add a rack if I want to go do all day out there in the woods, bring a cooler, gas, oil, whatever I want. And then I can even hook up to my log splitter to really carry everything that I could possibly need to go process some firewood. So thanks to my buddy Cash for going ahead and motivating me to put the ball on the back. I think it was the right choice. I was already thinking about doing it, and his text went ahead and motivated me to make it happen in this video. All right, hopefully y'all enjoyed it. You're going to see this getting a lot of use in some upcoming videos. We'll catch you on the next one. Take care.